Hello, I'm Giedre, Bankfeed Solution Architect, and today I want to introduce to the new Bankfeed version 25.0. In this new version, we introduce a new feature for importing incoming and outgoing payments into various general journal templates. We also redesigned text-to-account mapping dimension functionality, improved recognition using text-to-account mapping formulas, added a new function in the journal for you to be able to mark lines as skip posting, and gathered all Bankfeed permission sets into one permission set. So let's just start with the first one, splitting incoming and outgoing bank transactions into journal templates. In cases where different employees work with bank transactions, splitting imported bank transactions into different general journal templates could be very helpful. For example, incoming payments, credits, would go to cash receipt journals, and outgoing payments, debits, to the payment journal. This new feature can be used by selecting the new journal type in the assisted setup Get Started with Bankfeed. Let's just jump to the PC and see how it works. When you start using the Bankfeed, you go to Setup List and run the assisted setup Get Started with Bankfeed. And the first step for you is to choose the journal type. So if you want to split the transactions, select General Journal Split by Debit Credit. Then select the journal template name for incoming transactions, for example, cash receipt, and journal template name for outgoing transactions, for example, payments. Click Next, Finish, and you are done. If you are an existing Bankfeed user and you have already chosen the journal type, you can also change it. It is done in the Integration Setup Bankfeed page, but before we recommend to post all existing journal lines or to delete the lines with all the batches which have a mark Bankfeed. So now I will delete the batches with the transactions. Go to Setup List and Integration Setup Bankfeed. Change the journal type from General Journal to General Journal Split by Debit Credit. Select the journal template name for incoming transactions and template name for outgoing transactions. Close the window and run the function Process Accounts, which will fill the new journal lines. Okay, now when we go into journal lines, we see that we have more journal batches than before because the split was done, and the journal batches starting with C, it means credits, are for incoming transactions, and the journal batches starting with D is debits, are for outgoing transactions. If we go to one of them, we will see that only credit or incoming transactions are in the journal. If we go to the D journal, we will find only the debits or the outgoing transactions. When we first introduced the ability to add the full dimensions to text-to-account mapping Bankfeed, our users were very enthusiastic. However, as we grew the customer range, we soon realized that this functionality must follow the fundamental Dynamics 365 Business Central functionality, so we redesigned it to meet Business Central's best practices. In this release, dimensions assigned to specific text-to-account mapping cases can be combined with standard dimensions functionality, like dimension value filtering or dimension priorities, which predefines the order of the dimensions coming from the different sources in the journal line. So if you are a new Bankfeed user or haven't used dimensions in the text-to-account mapping before, you do not need to do anything else. Just use the new functionality in your Bankfeed app. But if you have used dimensions in text-to-account mapping before and want to start using the new functionality, you need to open the page text-to-account mapping Bankfeed and click Actions Migrate Dimensions to Default Dimensions. Let me show you how it looks in Business Central. So let's open text-to-account mapping page. We see here that my text charges has assigned dimensions, department and project. So if we want to move to the new functionality, we need to click on Actions and migrate dimensions to default dimensions. Confirm with yes. And now when we drill down the dimensions, we will see that we have here default dimensions and value filtering. So now we can use, for example, one of the standard dimension functionality is dimension priorities, which allows us to set to the journal the dimensions we want to assign and to specify the order how they should be managed. For example, in this case, text-to-account mapping dimensions would have the first priority, but dimensions coming from bank account would be the second, and dimensions from customer and vendor assigned to the line would be the third and the last priority. Moving forward to improved text-to-account mapping functionality, sometimes we come to a more complicated situations where setting up one word for recognition is insufficient. So we introduced formulas in the text-to-account mapping functionality. It will allow you to have more variations in text and setups. You can still use the same functionality as before and enter only one word for recognition, but in cases where that's not enough, you can add formulas. To better understand the improvements, let's analyze one example. Let's assume that our bank transactions contain many different charges and only some specific symbols result in the correct GL account that should be assigned to the line. Let's open the PC and analyze our example. So here in the journal we have a lot of lines with charges, and we know that every different charges, for example charges with RD, charges with RMO, and charges needs to be assigned to the different GL accounts. So for this, let's go to text-to-account mapping Bankfeed page. We see here our old setup where we have charges assigned to the GL account. If we will leave only this setup, all our lines which contains charges will be assigned to that one GL account. But when we go back to text account mapping, we have here a new item, show regex expressions. And here I have prepared two formulas, one for charges RM, another for charges RD. And both of these texts are assigned to different GL accounts. You can see also here that in column recognition order, we have processing order numbers. It means that this formula will be the first and this formula will be the second to apply to text-to-account mapping. Also, we have a new column, enable. You can enable or disable some formulas. Going back to charges, here you will also see the same new column, enable or disable, which allow you to use the entered setup or not. So going back to our journal lines, let's just now mark them all and refresh the recognition, and you will see that all our lines are recognized, and depending on the text in the message to recipient, GL accounts are different. A long time ago, Bankfeed introduced an ability to skip some bank transactions from posting because it was already posted or we just don't want others to see it. But skipping was only available in the statement lines or you had to use specific setup rules for defining which transactions should be skipped all the time. Sometimes, when we do not have specific rules for skipping bank transactions, it's easier to mark the transactions in the journal. This release offers such a possibility. Let's open the PC and go into the journal. Here I have some transactions and I want 2 of them to be skipped. So I can just mark the lines I want to skip. And here in the action pane, just click the function mark as skip posting. Now we have the lines marked. And also we have a new function for unmarking the lines. So you can mark or unmark them. And also remember that if you have some lines in the journal which have skip posting check mark, you need to move these lines from the journal because otherwise they will be posted as normal journal entries. So click just move skip lines and they will be transferred to posted statement lines. In previous Bankfeed versions, if a user did not have a super permission set, they needed to have 3 permission sets assigned to them to be able to use Bankfeed app. In this version, to make it easier for users, we created one permission set, EONDB Super, which includes all other necessary permission sets, and you need to assign only one permission set per user.